So we had the shooting in Orlando, of course, at the Pulse nightclub, and it was done by Omar Mateen. He's mentioned in this article. We try not to talk about the names of the mass shooters afterwards, but in this case, I have to be clear, and I need to clarify that as well as several other things that happened in that shooting. And there was a lot of wrong information, as it turns out, that was stated about this particular guy and his motives. In fact, his wife was tried for helping him commit this act of terrorism. And in that trial that has now concluded, we found out what the reality was. And so there was a ton of speculation. Was it because he actually was a person who had gone to the Pulse nightclub many times, and that in fact he was closeted and had a former lover inside the nightclub, and he did that. Now, I have to tell you, that is something that was reported widely. There was even a guy who wore a disguise and went and did an interview on television claiming to be his former lover. Very convincing, and certainly convinced a lot of the news outlets, including myself. And I have said that on a number of occasions. Well, I'm here to tell you that was wrong. So I retract that. That is not why he did it. So now we find out the real story because of this trial. So let me go to HuffPost here for a wider explanation. They explain that over the past 2 weeks in Orlando, Mateen's widow, Noor Salman, was tried for having allegedly helped him plan his attack. The popular understanding of the Pulse shooting as a carefully targeted massacre was on trial as well. And in acquitting Salman, 31, on Friday, a jury also delivered a verdict on the story we'd told ourselves about the killings. We'd gotten it wrong. So yes, we collectively in the media apparently definitely had it wrong. By the way, the other people who had it wrong were prosecutors who went after his wife. Now, that was a terrorism charge, and she got acquitted. That almost never happens. And it turns out it's because they didn't have the evidence on her. So, and the jury did not think that it was a difficult decision. So she not only did not go to help him in those shootings, they did not case out the Pulse nightclub. In fact, he apparently had never even heard of the Pulse nightclub and did not know what it was. And so of course she couldn't have helped him case it. And apparently an FBI agent investigating within days knew that she had never gone anywhere near the Pulse nightclub. They found that out in the middle of the trial. And the judge who had kept her in jail without bail said, what, you know, a couple of days into your investigation, let alone in the middle of this trial, and now you're telling me that you knew from her cell phone data and tracking her phone that she'd never gone anywhere near it. And you're telling us in the middle of the trial. Part of the reason that she was acquitted, because it just wasn't true that she helped him. In fact, this monster had beaten her, raped her, etc. So you know how much time she spent in prison wrongly? 14 months. Got a son, couldn't see him, couldn't touch him, couldn't hug him, couldn't kiss him. Her grandmother died while she was in prison, couldn't go to her funeral, couldn't see her before she passed away. So now that's the injustice done to Noor Salman, who also suffered at the hands of Mateen. But now let's turn to the other evidence in this case and why he actually did it and why we know that it wasn't related to the nightclub in particular. Melissa Jelson doing a great job in reporting here, explaining there was no evidence that he was a closeted gay man, no evidence that he was ever on Grindr, as a lot of folks had reported. He looked at porn involving older women. But investigators who scoured Mateen's electronic devices couldn't find any internet history related to homosexuality. So look, you commit one of the biggest mass murders in American history, and yes, investigators are going to look through your internet searches to see what you were up to. And it turns out, and he did watch porn, and you'll find out what he's into when you look through his searches that he thought were private. And it turns out it was not homosexuality, okay? As far as investigators could tell, Mateen had never been to the Pulse before, whether as a patron or to case the nightclub. Even prosecutors acknowledged in their closing statement that Pulse was not his original target. It was Disney Springs shopping and entertainment complex. And further clarity on that, and conservatives can be happy about this. He thought there was too much security there, and so he Googled Orlando nightclub, randomly found Pulse. Investigators also said that when he did that Google to find his next target, when he couldn't go into the other places that he wanted to hit, he did not search for gay or LGBT or any of those terms. So turns out it was a random nightclub that he hit. So more evidence here. They presented evidence demonstrating that Mateen chose Pulse randomly less than an hour before the attack. It's not clear he even knew it was a gay bar. A security guard recalled Mateen asking where all the women were, apparently in earnest, in the minutes before he began his slaughter. So look, very understandable why folks thought that he had targeted gay people, because even if he had done it for reasons related to radical Islam, well, there's an argument to be made that obviously that radical Islam is not in favor of homosexuality, and they thought maybe he might have targeted homosexuals on purpose because of that. And there were reports that his dad said he was once quote unquote disgusted by seeing two men kiss. So fair conclusions early on, very understandable. It is really disturbing that evidence did not come forward more quickly in the media, and much more disturbing that prosecutors pursued this case against his wife anyway, knowing all of this information. And so it looks like it was not a hate attack against LGBT members. To me, look, that's important, but he killed 49 people, wounded 53 others. I mean, it is horrible act of terrorism, and it's a massacre any way you classify it, and clearly terrorism. And so, but it was not done because of other reasons related to his closeted personality, etc. That part is apparently not at all true. So why was it done? No, it was because of radical Islam. There were daily obsessive searches about ISIS, however, on his phone and in his computers. So he did not look up gay porn, or was not on Grindr, none of that stuff. But he did look up ISIS a lot. And now some of this was reported at the time, and I told you guys about it too, but it seemed like a throwaway at that moment, that right before he went into the club, he said, oh, it's because of ISIS, and went in. But now there are more details. We did not know the degree to which he had searched for ISIS-related propaganda on his computers earlier. We do now. And at the time when he'd called in the middle of the attacks, and they have him on tape saying this, says, you have to tell America to stop bombing Syria and Iraq. They're killing a lot of innocent people. What am I to do here when my people are getting killed over there? You get what I'm saying? No, we don't get what you're saying. And of course, that is not a reason why you should massacre innocent people. But of course, that's what disturbed people do. And but in this case, it seems clear now. Yes, his motivation was because he was looking at ISIS propaganda. They did not, to the best of my knowledge and what is reported, do not have solid connections of him coordinating it or planning it with ISIS. I mean, he barely planned it at all. He looked up Pulse nightclub an hour before he did the attack. So, but to me, that's not that material. It's still definitely terrorism, and definitely because of this particular political cause. Okay, now just look, Melissa did a great job here in talking to people in the community, in covering the trial, and you could tell in her reporting, and we'll have the link to the article down below. But she talked to some person there, and I don't want to pick on them too much, but it is a little bit disturbing in terms of how all sides these days are viewing different stories. So let me give you the quote. She says, during the trial, I spoke to one LGBT community leader there who said he would always know in his heart that Mateen picked Pulse to kill gay people, and that Salman knew of his plans. That's his wife. No amount of evidence would change his mind, he said. Well, I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in a world where we don't care about the evidence, and that we ignore facts, and that we just go to what is convenient for us or what we already believed, regardless of the facts. No, for God's sake, for everyone's sake, for reason's sake, Yes, you should care about the evidence. You should care about the facts. And if you got something wrong, you should be clear about that and correct it. And if your previous idea was that he targeted that nightclub because it was a gay nightclub, as I thought, you should be open to evidence and facts that show the reality to be the contrary. So I hope we as a nation can get past this idea of sticking with our preconceived notions, and we could all be open to reality as it is, whether it fits our narrative or it doesn't. So at least now we know a lot more about the reality of what happened in Orlando. What you just watched was one of the videos that we do today, but we actually do a whole 2-hour show every single day. It's a podcast. You could watch it in video or listen to it as audio. You can download it, you can stream it, and you get it completely ad-free if you could become a member of the Young Turks. tytnetwork.com/join.